Welcome back to this lesson on game theory. This is part of a series, so please like and subscribe to get updates or go to the description to check out previous videos. Today we are talking about repeated games, and specifically about repeated games with a set endpoint. So a game that is repeated a finite or a specifically limited number of times. So up to this point in the course, if you've been watching some of the other videos, we've been discussing games that have been considered one-shot games or one-off games. When are one-shot games appropriate? Well, there are certainly situations where they are appropriate. You know, if it's a one-time interaction, limited interaction, could make sense. There are a number of games where it makes much more sense to think of them in a repeated fashion. Anywhere from how you might behave with friends or others in college because you see them every day, to in tipping behavior because you might see the person you're tipping again, or you might be at that particular place again. And if a game is repeated, it could really change what is the best outcome or the correct strategy. So in this, we're going to look at finitely repeated games. In the next video, we will consider indefinitely repeated games, often thought of as infinitely repeated, but it might have an ending, but we don't know when it is. So let's go through an example and see how things change once games are repeated. Let's consider a game here where you have two people who are going camping. Each could bring fireworks. Okay, they both like fireworks, so each could bring fireworks. Seeing fireworks brings utility of $15 for each set of fireworks that's purchased. So each person has an option to buy one set and bring it. So get $15 in benefit. Now, the cost of a set of fireworks is $20. So each person has a decision, do I spend $20 on a set of fireworks? You know, they know individually they get $15 in value, but also the other camper would get $15 in value. So 15 in utility for each set of fireworks purchased. Each person could bring one set of fireworks or not bring one set of fireworks, and the set of fireworks costs $20. Well, first thing that I'd like you to try, especially if you're taking this class kind of seriously, go ahead and pause the video and complete the payoff matrix. I have the outline of the payoff matrix here for you. So camper A, camper B could bring fireworks or not bring fireworks. Go ahead, I'd recommend you pause the video and fill this out, but I will go through this right now. So if neither brings fireworks, right, they don't spend any money, but then they don't get any utility, so that would just be $0 for each of them. If they both bring fireworks, remember the fireworks cost $20, and each camper gets $15 each from the set of fireworks, so there's $30 in value, $10, $20 cost, so $10 net utility. So the payoff would be $10 for both camper A and camper B. If one of them brings them and the other doesn't, remember the person has to spend $20 to buy the fireworks and only gets $15 of value. So the person who brings them loses $5 worth of utility, but the person who doesn't bring them gains $15 worth of utility. And that causes our payoff matrix to look like this. So we have the payoff matrix. Now, if this game were only played one time, what's the Nash equilibrium? Well, let's just look at each of the four outcomes. If they both bring fireworks, that looks like a pretty good outcome, right? They each get $10 in value. However, there's an incentive to not bring it, right? Somebody else is bringing the fireworks. You could get $15 in value without spending a penny. So you go from $10 to $15 in value if you're camper A. Camper B actually also wants to switch, right? $10 to $15. What about the outcome where one of them brings fireworks? Well, the one who brings the fireworks has actually spent $20 and only getting back $15 in value, so they're not happy. They would want to switch over to not bringing the fireworks. So neither of the outcomes where one of them brings fireworks and the other doesn't, neither of those are Nash equilibria. The only one that could possibly be is if they don't bring fireworks. Each of them don't. And looking at this, neither has an incentive to switch, because if one of them switched unilaterally, they'd go from a payoff of 0 to a payoff of -5. And that's true for both camper A and camper B. So the Nash equilibrium, if the game is played once, neither brings fireworks, right? That's kind of a standard prisoner's dilemma style game. But what happens if the game is repeated a finite number of times? So there is a set number of times where we exactly know what will happen. To think about this, you want to work backwards. What would happen in the very last game? Well, 10th time the game is played, it reverts to a one-time game. And because it reverts to a one-time game, we know exactly what happens. Neither will want to bring fireworks. Well, so we know that'll happen in the very last time. What about the second to last time? Well, once again, given we already know what's going to happen after this, this becomes essentially then another one-off game, because we know what happens in the last round. The second to last round then is the last one where there are any meaningful decisions made. Neither will bring fireworks. And same thing would happen in the third to last. And actually that happens all the way back. So if a game is repeated a finite number of times, right, and we use backward induction, the subgame perfect Nash equilibrium is for the players not to rent at all in any of the time periods, which seems a little bit crazy, right? Because it seems like there's these huge benefits if they could somehow cooperate, and now they are repeating, so why can't they get there, right? That's the problem we're seeing with this potential repeated game. So there's a question of, does this really make sense? And in some ways I think it really doesn't, and it's part of why we will not be setting up most games as a finitely repeated game throughout the course. But there are a couple ways where this might not make sense that you need to be careful about. First, if you were meeting a friend, do you think this would be the outcome? I think most of us would say, well, no, of course not. But if you're meeting a friend, your utility and happiness is probably based in part on their utility and happiness. Therefore, the payoffs that we see in the payoff matrix are no longer really accurate. It's important when constructing games to be very accurate with your payoffs. And if somebody gets utility because their friend is happy, that's got to go in there. We didn't talk about that at all in this game. So if you're meeting a friend there, this game likely wouldn't have that same outcome because the payoffs themselves are different. If you're meeting a random stranger, though, it very well could be the case that this would indeed happen. However, overall, the finitely repeated games aren't going to get us to anything really different than what we see in a one-off or one-shot game. A key lesson: if a social dilemma, so a prisoner's dilemma type game, is repeated for a definite and set finite number of times, the subgame perfect Nash equilibrium is always for the players to defect in each and every round of the game, just like the original game. If you like, catchy little poem here, hopefully might help some of you with this. If we know a repeated game ends, the same Nash equilibrium extends. A finite game, same Nash equilibrium every time. Doesn't matter if it's repeated twice, 5 times, 10 times, or 1,038 times. Same Nash equilibrium every time. Now, indefinitely repeated games, which we will be covering next, not the same story. Much more interesting, I think more realistic. And that will be in the next video. I hope you tune in for that. Please like and subscribe to receive updates, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.